Broadcasting live from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado. You're listening to Bronco Planet, brought to you by the Denver Broncos Booster Club, home of the greatest fans in the NFL.
Well, hey there, folks. It's Shad and Danny. Shad, it's end of week one. Denver Broncos coming up with a big victory, 31-21 over the Colts. Let's just talk about the game. Let's talk about the first half of the game first.
Please, let's split it up because there was two games that happened there.
Definitely a tale of two games there, okay?
So first half, absolutely what you wanted the Broncos to do. Everything works out, planned out, outside of the Demarius drops. I don't know what happened to DT, but it wasn't a very good game for DT. He's three drop passes, but at the end of the day, that offense looking really good. Julius Thomas, unbelievable. Broncos come out moving the ball. Defense looking good. Everything you hoped that this Bronco team would be. You know, they have the talent to be up 24-0. No luck for Indiana.
Is it safe to say, Shad, that the Broncos in the first half of that football game met your expectations?
Absolutely. That was just what you needed. There are two teams that have really shined so far, and I see Seattle that looks awfully tough, and then Denver in that first half. Those, look at week one across the NFL without being biased, those two teams look like they were a notch above the pair.
At the risk of coming off, Shad, like a nitpicky butthole, and feel free to judge me, but then the second half came along, and once again we didn't see the closing. We didn't see the Broncos stepping on anybody's neck on both sides of the ball. Two people, Shad, that I cannot stand in life, Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, but the one thing that they've earned from me is respect, because they step on their opponent's neck each and every week, and that's kind of, that's the expectation. That second half, I was expecting, okay, man, I'm looking at 48-0. I was expecting the same thing. Granted, here we go. We don't know if it was coaching. We don't know if it was conservatism. We don't know if it was players. Was the Broncos trying to establish a running game for later on in the year, just in case Peyton's passing game wasn't working. We can pick this apart until we're blue in the face. But the bottom line is that, folks, this is the NFL. Good case in point. Let's ask the Jacksonville Jaguars. How confident were you at halftime going in 17-0, only to be doubled up and lose? This is the NFL. You cannot let these guys get up off the ground once you've knocked them down, and I hope going forward this is a big lesson for the Broncos on both sides of the ball.
You would hope so, Danny, but let's just go over some facts, right? 2 years ago, we had the Baltimore game. We all remember that. We're ahead. We're dominating the game. We go conservative. All of a sudden, we lose that. Now take it to a year ago. Look at the New England game. Up by 24. We find a way to fumble our way through that and lose that game. We did hang on and win. Thank you, Mr. Rookie himself. Bradley Roby with a great
courtessy clap.
For sure.
Let me tell you something, Roby. First game as an NFL pro, you won that game for the Denver Broncos. Safe to say?
Did really well. I mean, he got Reggie Wayne, I think, had like 9 receptions, like 90 yards. But the fact of the matter was he was close. He was in there. He was participating. I love the way he hits. He kind of does that dive sideways thing and just like takes people out. But he makes a big play. But the bottom line is Denver still has not learned how to get ahead and stay ahead. If it's a slow little dose of it and it's a close game, they'll get high. Look at the Dallas game last year, just score. But if they get way ahead, it's just, and I think it's Fox has got, this is another fact, Fox over the years has always been conservative. I don't think he had anything to do with the play calling, but it's his philosophy that's installed on this team. And so it was very sloppy. It was disappointing.
If you're trying to work on a running game, I get it. Maybe come out and just say it. But when's the last time that you've seen on consecutive series of offensive possessions of run on first down, run on second down, third and long pass?
And
that's not who the Denver Broncos are. That's not what this team is about. That's not how they're built. And I think that was the most disconcerting thing for me. Again, nitpicky butthole, that's fine. But quick little bit of advice: be who you are, and that is a pass first, high-scoring, powerful offense. Defensively, we now have that firepower to bring the heat, and it was almost like Joe Collier showed up in Denver on the second half of that game. It was bending back. It was bend, don't break. Don't give up the big one, but give everything up in front of you. Just drives me crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely sloppy, and when they did do the passes, they didn't execute very well. You saw Caldwell drop one. Sanders, who had a great game for the most part, great diving catch. He drops one. Demarius dropped one in the second half, and then Manning had some pretty poor throws late in the game too that could have just extended drives and made things a little different. So at the end of the day, the Broncos, it's a W. They have to. We'll take the win.
Sure,
but you got to figure out how do you, to your point, how do you be that team that's going to just stick it to you? Remember the old 49er dynasties? We got some Super Bowls that we had to live through. They didn't sit back and let us come back in the second half. They stuck it to us and just kept turning and turning and turning. So that's what Denver has to work on. But promising signs. I think that defense looked really good. A couple interceptions for Rahim Moore.
Game ball.
Defensive player of the game for sure.
Let's just talk game balls here, Shaddy. Rahim Moore, not a guy that really minces words. It's put up or shut up for Rahim. He had come out earlier and said, I want to be an All-Pro. I want to lead the league in interceptions. Well, wish granted, Rahim Moore in week one.
Good start so far.
Oh my gosh, it was, and I think he's much better suited into this position. He was a ball hawker in college, and I think he pretty much had his way last Sunday with Andrew Luck. Not something I think anybody really expected out of Rahim Moore. Talk is cheap, folks, and when it does come time to put up or shut up, I think Rahim Moore certainly stepped up.
He definitely stepped up. And what continues to be the most underrated player in that Broncos defense, Nate Irving. Nate Irving had 2 tackles for losses. He had a sack. He's all over the place. He did get hurt for a little bit, but it's good to see him back in the game. Haven't heard him missing practice this week. So I really like what Nate Irving's doing. DeMarcus Ware, sack and a half, just what you would expect. And then Von Miller, I think some people said, hey, all right, Von's got to come out. He's going to be the old Von. Well, listen, the guy didn't even play any preseason games, right? So he's just trying to get the conditioning. He's getting hit. There were stories in the paper. He was feeling it this week. He definitely, not necessarily the leg that got worked on, but more just like I'm getting hit. So I think Von's going to come along, and I really, there's a clear difference. TJ Ward, awesome. Talib, unbelievable. I mean, this defense is going to be a top 5 defense. Trust me, folks, end of the season, this Bronco defense, top 5.
Something, I'm going to rewind a little something on Von Miller. For those of you out there that were kind of browbeating Von a little bit, and I think it's easy to fall into that trap because that expectation's already there. He's Von freaking Miller. He is expected to perform at a level much higher than anybody's. He's made offensive tackles look completely stupid in a very short time that he calls his career. But anytime you're coming off an ACL, folks, this is something that once surgery is done, it's not you're back to the same old guy. This stuff takes time just to get your body and your knee and your conditioning back to health. In a healthy body player, he's working on his craft. He's already healthy. He's already there. He's working on his craft. He's getting better. He's slapping hands. He's swimming. He's doing all these things to perfect his craft. Von, the poor guy, has the craft, but what he is trying to do is get his body back to the old Von Miller. Absolutely. That's going to take a little time. I think you're probably not going to see any more out of Von Miller over the course of the first half of this year, but I think the second half of this year you may see Von really elevate his game as his body gets used to it if he stays healthy, and Chris Harris for that matter, coming off the exact same injury. Did Chris Harris look good on Sunday?
Absolutely.
Not too shabby, but I'm looking for a guy that's going to be the elitist, and there's a hell of a lot of hope right now riding on the shoulders of Chris Harris, and if a guy like Roby just keeps doing what he's doing, holy underpants, Shed.
It's looking great.
We were all excited about Rogers Cromartie and Champ Bailey. These two guys could really, along with Talib, obviously, make this just a complete defense for a change.
I think they're looking very solid in the backups, too. You got Quintara Smith that comes in, definitely impact. Malik Jackson gets half a sack there as well.
If you ask Malik, it was all his because he did all the hard work.
And he dedicated that to his dad, right? So he lost recently, so hats off to him. And no, the defense is definitely coming along. We had a great opportunity to hang out with some of the Broncos this week at a little bowling charity thing, and Pot Roast has got to be the greatest Bronco. I mean, he is so fun. He's such a big squirrely, fun guy. He's carefree. He's like a big teddy bear. And I just love that guy, and just so nice to all the fans. Talib was there with his little 2-year-old son. You know, I had asked him earlier at camp, you know, who was your hero growing up? He says his dad. And I asked him, hey, what do you like to do in your days off? He likes, hey, I like to be a dad. And sure enough, here's a charity event, and he's one of the few that just brings his kid with him. So Talib, all the acquisitions on defense are paying off for the Broncos. It started a few years ago with pot roast and some of those, and now we're seeing it all come together. So defense, looking very positive, and you have a special award you want to give to one of our offensive players.
Well, let's get a little clap of the hands for Julius Thomas, Orange Julius, Offensive Player of the Week, deservedly. And honestly, when you look at Week 1 in the NFL, a guy like Megatron that put up just some gigantic numbers as usual, the receiver Hearns down in Jacksonville that nobody's ever heard of, who's probably the most picked up guy in fantasy, had a great game. But Julius Thomas, Offensive Player of the Week. We dug this little nugget out of the Bronco Planet vault. I believe that is circa 1974, Shad. But each and every week that a Bronco actually comes up with an Offensive Player in the Week, I have a feeling that Mr. Peyton Manning may see this once or twice. We're going to put out this little gem as a little recognition and a job well done. You know, I love me some Julius Thomas. I hated me some Julius Thomas because in 3 of my fantasy leagues, I had 3 teams start Julius against me, and I just got clocked. But water under the bridge when it means a W. But let me tell you, it really pisses me off as a guy like me that takes Jimmy Graham in the first round.
Well, it'll all come out.
Oh my gosh!
It's not all in week 1. But hey, listen, Julius had a few mistakes. Obviously, he had a fumble, and then he missed the mup there. So wasn't a perfect game, but 3 touchdowns, 100 yards receiving. So Julius looking good, and Peyton Manning, kudos on being the only.
Does Megatron have one of these, Shad?
No, I don't think so.
He does. Does Jimmy Graham have one?
He doesn't deserve it.
Nope.
Julius Thomas.
No, he does not.
So Peyton Manning, the only other quarterback besides Brett Favre to beat every team in the NFL, so that's all good news. So I'm feeling optimistic. I think we got some great things going on. We got a Chiefs team that just looked terrible last week.
Let's just get down to it. Divisional game. You know, this is when things get real, for us. Anytime you're playing a divisional opponent, Week 1, for those of you who don't know, the Broncos are the only one in the AFC West that come out with a W. The Chiefs, Week 1, just go out, A, get clocked, B, lose 2 very important starters on defense, and and again, if you've been sleeping under a rock, get a big signing, former Denver Bronco Kevin Vickerson. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Big Vic, first of all, I'm glad that he found a place, and had some funny quotes in the media about, hey, what does Omaha really mean? And he's like, what's some small
town in Nebraska.
So Vickerson's a good guy, and I think he's going to want to have some redemption against the team that let him go. So Manny Ramirez is going to have his hands full. But you know what? This is a very piss-poor Chiefs team. There's no getting around it. I think what you're going to see is Broncos with at least a 2-touchdown victory this week.
Pop quiz, Shad. Yes. What's the difference between Alex Smith and Joe Flacco? Nothing. They're both overpaid for the job that they do. So I really look for Denver's defense to capitalize on this. Offensively, Denver's going to do what they're going to do. With the defense being as hurt as they are, Vickerson still has to learn the scheme. He still has to learn, all there is to learn. You're not going to plug a guy and have him come and dominate the game, even if it is Kevin Vickerson. But, not normally do we see a division game so early in the year. What's your prediction here?
Well, the absolute domination. It was good to see all the FC West teams lose already. And it's a big special game for those in the Denver area. Bronco fans everywhere, really. We have the Ring of Fame inductions coming up, and so you got
some big names.
Coach Dan Reeves, you have Gene Mingo, and then our favorite, who's a close friend of the show, Rick Upchurch, who we spent a little time with this week, him and his lovely wife Donna. What a great guy this guy's. Played running back in college, comes to the NFL, still leads all NFL rookies.
Here's a stat.
He was AFC. Well, he was a rookie of the year, in the AFC. But here's the cool thing.
Hit it.
He came in for his first game, had more total yardage than anybody in NFL history for a first game.
To this day, correct?
Yes, to this day. He's also the only Bronco to be on 2 all-decade teams for the 70s and 80s. He's the all-time career yardage leader for the Broncos. And we're going to be hanging out with Rick Upchurch. We'll have some pictures. And because of that, and because, the Broncos won, we have a special person to call out. You know who it is. Bring it, baby.
folks. You know, it's been a while since we've seen the old prize monkey come out of the vault. He is back. And this week, Shad, week 1, now going into week 2, it's a special prize. What
yes, well, because we have Rick Upchurch, and since we spent a little time with him, we have 3 prizes. And it's actually a 8x10 signed autograph picture that says Rick Upchurch. It's got 2014 Ring of Fame on it. And then we got a couple cards. Some of it might be his rookie or his second-year card, and he signed those too. So all you got to do is comment anywhere on YouTube, Bronco Planet, the Denver Bronco Booster Club, any one of those 3 places. All you got to do is comment about our show. You're in the drawing, and we'll pick out 3 people. 2 people are going to get signed cards. One's going to get the 8x10. And, you know, congratulations, Rick. We loved you back in the day. And I mean, it's guys like Rick Upchurch that put this little cow town on the map.
Oh, absolutely.
And so excited to see him going in there. So, Danny, wrapping up, any final thoughts?
You know, something, here's the deal. A guy like Peyton Manning can certainly recognize that a win is a win, but you're still going to take something away from that. And he is smart enough to know that we need to sharpen up on this, on that. You just need to see it on both sides of the ball. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. You know, not every game is going to be, for lack of a better term, an ass kicking. Yep. Okay, but you know, there are certain situations where you are going into a half and you've already knocked them out. They're on the ground. You're standing over them. You're doing the Muhammad Ali, only to let these guys up. It's like I said before, this is the NFL. Anybody can get up at any time and stuff it right back up you can. So hopefully this was certainly a learning experience for the Broncos going forward. I'm with you. I just don't see the Chiefs coming away with anything other than humiliation, and there's a couple fingers crossed.
Yes, and a couple bruises. Yep. And finally, I'm going all in on Julius Thomas this week. I think he, you know, just 4 receptions, pretty quiet game. He had a couple drops. I'm sure him and Peyton got together and said, hey, that crap ain't happened. I've seen Peyton likes to spread that ball around, and I think he's going to see his favorite target, who's in a contract year, by the way, get some big yardage. So I'm going at least 150 yards with DT, 1 touchdown minimum, probably 2.
Awesome.
Mark my words, baby.
Well, until then, it's a 2 o'clock game on Sunday here in the great state of Colorado. So we'll be back after, hopefully on Monday, assuming that you don't have a mani-pedi scheduled. And we'll be right back here with Bronco Planet. So until then, I'm Danny. He's Shad. We'll see you real soon.
You've been listening to Bronco Planet, brought to you by the Denver Broncos Booster Club, home of the greatest fans in the NFL.